The Transformers cartoon was nothing more than a vehicle to sell toys. Or was it?
The Transformers, more than meets the eye. Autobots wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons. The Transformers. Robots in disguise. The Transformers.
I love me some Generation 1 Transformers. The show can be pretty goofy at times, and its continuity got pretty damn wonky. However, it had an amazing cast of characters which were amplified by the spectacular voice talent. Now, before there was the Transformers, some of the toys that eventually became them already existed in Japan, primarily as two different lines by Takara, Diaclone and Microman.
Diaclone.
君はどれに乗り込むか。宝のカーロボット。
There was no show for these toys or anything, but they had some amazing commercials. One that I particularly like referencing is the kid with the gun.
Chain, chain, chain. ミクロチェンジの衝撃と Chain, chain, chain. ミクロチェンジのミステリー
When Hasbro made a deal with Takara to bring these toys over to North America, they turned to Marvel to create a backstory for these transforming robots, which led to the comic line and, of course, the cartoon series.
Transformers.
Now, there were a few other toys that ended up in Transformers that weren't originally from Takara's lines, like Shockwave, Omega Supreme, and probably most infamously, Jetfire.
The Autobots create the ultimate robot jet, Jetfire.
You all remember him from the show, don't ya? Nope, you sure don't. Hasbro licensed the Super Valkyrie toy from the Macross series for the Transformers toy line, but either there were legal issues that prevented them from actually depicting it exactly in the cartoon, or Takara objected, as in Japan, the Super Valkyrie was put out by their competitor, Bandai. No one really seems to know for sure, but the design was tweaked a fair amount, and then it got called Skyfire instead. Probably to save themselves from any more of these bizarre headaches, a lot more of these oddball toys never even appeared on the show. It was pretty unfortunate that we never got to see Shockwave's ski-loving Autobot brother in the show. Now, one of the things that has really given this show its lasting appeal is the lore behind the Transformers. While from a basic standpoint it's still the good guys, Autobots, versus the bad guys, the Decepticons, there's actually a lot more going on with the characters than that. It also helped immensely that the Transformers had an all-star voice cast, making a lot of these robots stand out and have very distinct personalities. This would make them very memorable characters that you'd actually care about, which is why a lot of the other Transformers that are just kind of dropped into the show that weren't as strongly performed are easily forgotten. Now, there's just way too many voice actors on the show to mention all at once, but some of the major ones were Peter Cullen as Optimus Prime and Ironhide. Cullen has said he modeled Prime's heroic voice after his brother, and it set the tone for pretty much every Optimus to come after. Frank Welker, who you might remember from every cartoon ever made and pretty much every weird animalish noise in a film, was Megatron and Soundwave. Chris Latta / Collins as Starscream and Wheeljack. As Starscream is my favorite Transformer, I don't think it will surprise any of you to hear that I absolutely adore Chris Latta's portrayal of the character. While some other minor characters that Latta voice sound Starscreamish, like Reflector,
Then let's go, Soundwave, Megatron, awaits our report.
I was pretty surprised when I found out the person who voiced Starscream also voiced Wheeljack, as they really don't sound anything alike.
Decepticons, feast your eyes on your new leader.
The Cosmotron I'm talking about's in my old workshop on Cybertron.
Though, I could say that about a lot of the voices on this show, as most of the actors performed double or more duty. Like Corey Burton as Spike, the Autobots' main human companion, was also the Killjoy Shockwave, who was never ever allowed to leave Cybertron, except for that one time the animation aired over to Earth. Dan Gilvezan was primarily the fan favorite Bumblebee, and of course later went on to play the live-action Rat Trap in Love and Curses.
Wait, what?
You also had such names in the cast like Casey Kasem as Cliffjumper, Greg Berger as Grimlock, and Scatman Crothers as Jazz. According to Dan Gilvezan, Scatman, being a musician, would bring his guitar to recording sessions to keep the other actors entertained when they had to wait around. And I always just love hearing stories like that about voice actors. A good idea to help ground the show about alien transforming robots was to have them take their battle to planet Earth. This also gave reason for why these robots had Earth-based objects as their alternate modes. Before they end up on Earth though, you do get to see a few of them using their original alternate modes on their home planet Cybertron. Spike, his father Sparkplug, friend Chip, and future wife Carly also acted as a grounding element to the show. Spike and company would aid the Autobots without being too overbearing or an overly obnoxious presence. One of the things that worked about Spike as well was he wasn't made overly young, so it didn't feel as stupid when he was of actual use. Plus, it made sense for these alien robots to need some aid from some natives of the planet. And as they got this balanced down well in a cartoon from the 80s, it sure would be pretty damn silly if they screwed that up 23 years later in a Hollywood adaptation. One negative thing that the original Transformers cartoon is well known for is its animation errors and shortcuts. Like, why are there 8 Constructicons here when there's only actually 6? Why are there a million different shades of Thundercrackers in this one scene? Who the hell are all these guys? Why is Sideswipe with Megatron?
This is a very deep hole that I won't have to plunge that far into in this video, so, yeah, mistakes were made.
I imagine with a show like Transformers, it got a little tough for the animators to keep track of all these robots, so some of these are understandable, while others just... how did that air in that state? Seriously? Now, one of the nice things about Season 1 of Transformers is, while getting a lot of characters dumped on you from the get-go, you are mostly getting to know this certain group of Autobots and Decepticons that have crashed on Earth and their personalities. My favorite thing, of course, being Starscream's ambition to overthrow Megatron as leader of the Decepticons at absolutely every opportunity.
Inhibitor shells! My equilibrium destabilized!
Megatron has fallen! I, Starscream, am now your leader! Decepticons, follow me!
Season 1 also had a lot of connection between the plots of episodes, and while stories were primarily Earth-based, there were some trips to Cybertron. Season 2 is when the show just started dropping new characters on you without any regard for proper introduction. Like Powerglide, who was never on the show before and just appears in an episode like he's always been there and catches Spike at the end.
He's dropped Spike!
No big deal!
Some they would properly introduce, which helped a lot, but if they didn't have many plots focused on them, you'd forget about some of these characters. Unless, of course, one of the plots these characters got was something outstandingly stupid, which would keep them in your mind for probably not the reasons they wanted.
I have to find out!
Sea spray?
How do you like that?
Though I imagine a ton of sea spray figures flew off the shelves after he turned into a mermaid.
Merman! Merman!
Season 2 is kind of all over the place. A good chunk of the episodes feel more tightly knit and more like Season 1, with mostly the characters from the beginning being featured, but then you get into the middle of it and you're hit by a slew of these moronic plots that just make you question almost every second of what you're watching.
This makes me sick.
There were also a handful of episodes that kind of felt more like post-movie Season 3 episodes where they'd go off into space onto a random planet with stupid aliens, and plots would focus on ridiculous things, like Smokescreen having to save some of his Autobot buddies by using his Game Genie device inside of him for gambling. Really, the best space-themed episodes usually stuck to being on Cybertron. However, there were some that featured complete continuity nonsense, like The Secret of Omega Supreme. The story in that one just felt like it was from a completely different universe, where Megatron turns Autobots into Decepticons with a Robo-Smasher, and Omega Supreme was great friends with the Constructicons before they were made.
My Constructicons have returned to our temporary base right on schedule. They were worth the time we spent building them in these caverns.
Were the Constructicons there too?
Yes, we were friends.
But some Cybertron-based episodes told some of G1's best stories, like the search for Alpha Trion. This episode not only expanded on Optimus Prime's backstory, but it also introduced us to Elita 1 and female Autobots.
But robots shouldn't have a gender. They should be all gender neutral, which is male.
This episode also ranks highly for me, as it was one of the ones that really showed why Starscream was second in command of the Decepticons, and why Megatron would usually have to forgive his many betrayals. Starscream actually would have killed Optimus Prime in this episode if it wasn't for Elita 1's freezing time cheat ability. So yeah, Season 2 was a hodgepodge all over the place, with good, medium, and terrible. Then came the original Transformers the movie.
Oh boy, yeah, no divisive opinions on that one.
It's over, Prime. Does Prime die? Transformers the movie.
The Transformers movie changed everything. One of the reasons was because a lot of the old toy line was being discontinued and they're trying to plug the new stuff, so it meant new characters. Suddenly, we had Ultra Magnus, Cop, RC, Hot Rod, and Springer dumped into the Autobot team. And much like any of the characters they didn't bother to intro in Season 2, they're just treated like they were always there, so deal with it.
Though the movie takes place in the future, so at least the characters had some time to meet between this and the series.
It is the year 2005.
Wow, I cannot wait for that year.
Even though the movie was amazing with some stunning animation and an awesome 80s soundtrack, it also devastated a lot of children by not only slaughtering most of the Autobot cast from Season 1, but also having the grim death of Optimus Prime.
This caused quite the stir by having a bunch of children bawling their eyes out in the theaters. I bet a lot of parents weren't too happy.
Oh shit, what are we gonna do now?
But hey, at least Spike said shit. I love that they would do stuff like that back then.
So, on the one hand, it was awesome to see the Transformers battles actually having consequences and some of them actually dying, but then you're left with the fact that you just lost most of the characters you actually knew from the show and are going to be stuck with a new cast of mostly over-gimmicked, annoying jackasses afterwards. Now, I'm not opposed to them killing off some characters. In fact, that's one of the cool things about this movie. But they should have mostly stuck to Transformers we didn't know that well, like Gears. Or ones that were annoying, like Gears. Or ones you had wished had died in the series anyway, like Gears.
Why couldn't Gears have died?
Though some people say that this is him in the acid, looks more like one of the reflectors than Gears, but it's a nice thought. The movie also committed the crime of having their deaths not even play that much into the story. This wouldn't have been as big a deal if it was just like Windcharger and Prowl, but they also slaughtered motherfucking Ironhide!
The Autobots will be vanquished forever! No! Such heroic nonsense.
He was just the second in command of the Autobots at the time, and it's never even given lip service once. They also just dropped some major character deaths on you just by showing you their corpses, like Wheeljack. And screw that! Wheeljack was somehow still alive in the Japanese series Victory, and while I don't care too much for those Japanese-only continuations of G1, I'll consider that at least in canon.
But at least this meant new toys, right? Though with how well this went down, I bet they're wishing they had just thought to make new figures of the old characters, like they pretty much have forever after.
Some people pretty much thought that's exactly what Ultra Magnus was going to be at first, because he is an Optimus Prime toy that combines with his trailer. But you never ended up seeing Ultra Magnus in his white Optimus Prime mode ever.
I really wish Ultra Magnus had used his white Prime mode at least once to freak Rodimus out and pretend he's Prime's ghost or something. I'm an ass.
The movie also added more mythos to the Transformers universe with the planet-sized Transformer Unicron and the Autobot Matrix of Leadership, which was now a huge deal, even though they apparently didn't even think it worth mentioning previously. When Prime died, he gave the Matrix to Ultra Magnus as he was the most Optimus Prime of the new character team, and really, he was the most competent one.
I've never seen anything this beautiful in the entire galaxy. All right, give me the bomb.
But he never figured to use the finger grooves in it like Hot Rod would later, and because he wasn't good enough to carry the Matrix normally, it transformed him into Rodimus Prime.
Seriously, you give me a better explanation for why he's the only one who changes form when he gets the Matrix. Except for Optimus Primal, I know someone's gonna bring that up.
I always kind of wondered if the whole Rodimus Prime idea had been done with another character already on the show instead of one just introduced, if it would have been more accepted. Now, Rodimus Prime's execution was wonky anyway, but imagine if they had given the Matrix to Bumblebee, a character with some of the same traits they had given Hot Rod, like being the young, more impulsive type, but he's actually one who's been around the whole time, so it would have been growth in a character that people actually liked in the first place. Rather than, hi, I'm Hot Rod, boom, I'm another guy now, buy both my toys!
Plus, we would have gotten an awesome bug convoy hybrid thingy with Bumblemus Prime. Maybe that's why they didn't do it.
Megatron also got turned into Galvatron by Unicron, who had a psychic link with his new master, but when Unicron was destroyed at the end of the film, it drove Galvatron insane.
Long live Galvatron!
At least that was always my take on why Galvatron went nuts after the movie. Unicron also transformed Skywarp into Cyclonus, Thundercracker into Scourge, and the Insecticons into the Sweeps.
Which is something that no one ever debates and is very clear-cut.
And while Prime's death might have been the one that was the biggest blow to most kids, there is a death that affected me much more.
The death of Starscream.
Megatron finally gets his revenge on old Screamer for his many betrayals in his new form as Galvatron. But hey, at least Starscream is the leader of the Decepticons for a bit, complete with his over-the-top ceremony. Just awesome. So yeah, one of the biggest problems with the movie isn't even so much the movie itself, it's dealing with its aftermath. Not only do you not have most of the characters you followed on the show up to this point anymore, the ones that are still around tend to stay on Earth, and that's not where the show focuses anymore. Now it's primarily on Cybertron, with them often going off to other random planets. Spike also doesn't feature as often as he used to, and instead, sometimes we are forced to follow his stupid kid Daniel, who pretty much does hit all the annoying child sidekick checkboxes. Watching back the third season, I was actually surprised how often Rodimus Prime didn't even appear in episodes, and somewhere he did, it was very minimally. Some of which he's just bookending them without taking place in the main story.
It's like they were already anticipating the mass hatred of Rodimus. I don't know what might have given them that thought.
No, you don't, Megatron! Out of the way, Hot Rod! Fall!
Oh yeah, it partially being his fault that Optimus Prime died, leading to a bunch of theaters of crying children.
It's almost like the bait and switch they pulled on us in the movie with them heavily plugging Ultra Magnus as the new leader, with it him being in the center of the movie poster, was switched again with the third season. Yeah, sure, Rodimus is still technically the leader, but when it comes to actual leadership of the Autobots, you see Ultra Magnus taking command and the lead quite often.
The new hyper generator will restore power to the entire 7th grid sector. I know you're bored, Rodimus, but with the mantle of leadership come obligations.
Really, Season 3 was the season of leaders that aren't really the leaders on both sides, because Galvatron was just insane now, and Cyclonus was the unofficial leader of the Decepticons. And I rather liked in one episode, he really showed how level-headed he was when he teamed up with Ultra Magnus. And they had a respect between two warriors moment. Also, one episode had Cyclonus so desperate to try and cure Galvatron of his madness, he took him to a psychiatric hospital planet. Which is just kind of amazing, really. Also, I thought at one point they were hinting that they might cure him by turning him back into Megatron, and then was really disappointed when that didn't happen.
Now, I really tried to give Rodimus a fair shot when rewatching G1 this time, but he makes it so hard. There was a dumb Rodimus moment almost every time he showed up.
Like when Springer here got chopped into pieces and is possibly dead, and here's the great leader's response.
Gross.
Really feel the care for those under his command, don't ya? Or how about when they find a race of pacifist Autobots on another planet which ends up getting destroyed due to their battle with the Decepticons?
It's as beautiful in death as it was in life.
Well, no need to get all mushy. Cybertron's a better place anyway.
Seriously? Have you even heard of empathy, Rodimus? Their home planet just got destroyed!
And then he can't even take a hint when Optimus Prime has been resurrected by the Quintessons, a race that ended up being responsible for the Transformers as of Season 3, even though I thought it was Vector Sigma in Season 2.
What was I talking about again?
Prime isn't really in his right mind because the Quintessons brought him back to try and destroy his fellow Autobots, but the moment Rodimus sees him, he tries to give him the Matrix back.
Wait, Optimus is in no condition to assume leadership? No.
And even after that stupidity, it still takes Optimus struggling with himself to give the Matrix back to Hot Rodimus and save the day one last time. Until they realize that giving the children a second gruesome death of Optimus Prime wasn't really satisfying to them.
But is this really the end of Optimus Prime?
And they had to finish the season with the unplanned two-parter, The Return of Optimus Prime. Does Prime return? The other standout episodes for Season 3 also included a once-dead character, Starscream. And yeah, I know I'm biased a bit, but the two episodes where Starscream's ghost appeared really do feel like some of the better written stuff of the season. In the episodes Starscream's ghost, part of the plot was also about Octane defecting to the Autobots, which is really interesting as well. The Decepticons seem to have a bit of a problem with Triple Changer switching sides, as Blitzwing also defected at the end of 5 Faces of Darkness. In the follow-up, Ghost in the Machine, Starscream reactivates Unicron's head that is in orbit of Cybertron now. Unicron now wants to make Cybertron his new body, and a new body is also what Starscream is after too. Which he totally gets!
Unicron, if you want the connection made, you better give me a new body now!
You shall have it.
I live again!
Starscream gets blasted into space at the end, leaving Cyclonus to ponder how a ghost could tumble out of control through space, which seems to be begging for a follow-up, but we unfortunately never got one. But whatever, Starscream lives! The Quintessons are a random element during part of the movie, which they gave super importance to during the 3rd season. Now, while I kinda like that they added a 3rd element to the show and changed the dynamic from just the Autobots versus the Decepticons, their execution isn't the greatest. They feel like they have too much undue importance suddenly, and their designs are ugly to look at. It also feels a bit insulting to say that these stupid things are suddenly the creators of the Transformers. That did at least give them something story-wise, but yeah, the Quintessons suck. One of them did revive Prime for reals in the finale, so there's their main point, I suppose. While Prime was blown to shit at the end of Dark Awakening, apparently he got a lot better and then was pulled from his ship before it blew up at the end of that episode. This is, of course, one of the other highlights of Season 3, since it brought back Prime properly, and it also finally showed some of the horrible things that could happen on Earth during the Transformers war there. One man, Gregory, was injured during a battle with Prime and Megatron, and he's held a grudge ever since. Also, his colleague, and the woman who really wanted to save Prime in the first place, Jessica, ends up getting injured during another battle, leading to her father and Gregory unleashing a hate plague, which is caused by these spores they found after a star exploded. Common stuff, really. You run across those spores every day. Almost everyone gets infected by these spores, as it affects both organic and robotic life. Then it's up to Prime to save the day with the touch.
You got the touch! What is this? The light of our darkest hour.
This was a pretty decent way to end the Transformers story. It was something big that affected the whole universe pretty much, and even had crazy old Galvatron shaking Prime's hand at the end of it.
There will be no war today, Optimus Prime.
Then Season 4 happened. It's hard to even call this a season. It's 3 episodes. According to the writer of them, David Weiss, it was originally supposed to be 5, then they dropped it on him that they were cutting it back to 3 after it was already written, and he had to try and make it work. Had it actually been 5, that might have helped a little with the pacing in these, but these episodes are a mess regardless, and really kind of hurt your head to try and even pay attention to. You are getting random new characters dropped on you so often through it, and really these episodes are probably what a lot of people thought of the show overall. Just an extended toy commercial. If there are ever episodes of the Transformers that really hit that note, it's these. Where other episodes of the series usually manage to give you more content-wise than that, Season 4's 3-parter titled Rebirth just failed in every aspect.
Plus, I find the Headmaster's gimmick to be a kinda lame one.
And that's what they were primarily pushing in this thing, but it was made even worse by making the head Transformers these stupid green assholes called Nebulons, which just meant even less time for the Transformers part of the story. Because now you had to learn about the Green Giant's reject family members, and it was hardly like you could even remotely give the tiniest of a shit about them. They were an annoying intrusion in a clusterfuck of a story that had other such nonsense like Daniel getting paralyzed and becoming RC's headmaster.
Paralyzed? That turns red? What?
Transformers would go on after this, but not with any actual new episodes in North America until 1996's Beast Wars. Until then, it was just repackaging of episodes and the movie with Power Master Prime host segments, and then the annoying CG crap tacked onto them with Generation 2.
Building them in these caverns. Scrapper, report! This time I shall not be denied.
It might have actually been nice to see some new episodes about these new toys that were still coming out instead of redressed reruns.
Masters!
Who will join me? Who will give up the power to transform to become stronger, faster, more alive?
I will!
Count me in!
And so, Action Masters are born.
Then again...
And that's my look at the classic G1 series. I will be going into some more specifics on other subjects in other videos, but for now I just wanted to talk about the series overall with its highs and lows.
And yes, I couldn't think of any better way to end this video than with another cheap shot at Rodimus. But he deserves it. Oh, and till all are one and such.
Transformers, more than meets the eye.
When's Machine Wars getting a cartoon?